Hello and welcome back to the channel on another CC playthrough, and this is Central Otago, or Otago, not doing New Zealand vowels, from energ1ser, and this one is based in New Zealand. Now, what he's mentioned on here, predominant wind direction is northeast, we've set it as such, and the challenges, the kind of elements he's gone for, 2 holes with 0 bunkers, 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 17, so predominantly bunkerless course. Augusta Bunker Challenge fits neatly alongside that, so no more than 22 bunkers on the course as a whole, and 4 green sites each within 200 yards of one another, so 1, 6, 10, and 17. Jaiza produces great courses. I always love his stuff, so I'm fully expecting to be really impressed by this. I've played it once. I played a lot of the courses when they first came out, so I already know it's really flipping good. Yeah, so we've got a kind of autumnal setting. It's really open. And it is just like the thing with Jaiza courses is the golf is going to be great, and the greens typically are phenomenal. So we're going to have a little look down. I know creek planting, I remember being very impressed by when that came through. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty spectacular. We can weave our way down here. Lovely. Look at just like little details with the rocks and grasses, just all sits very naturally and lightly. And you've got the little clusters of grasses that this is what separates people who are genuinely great at planting versus like good. Like, he's not just filling the space, it's like stuff fits. There's little clumps of planting. It's not all just one item dotted around. Like the whole environment makes sense and works really well. Now, as for the golf, we've got what I found interesting, I think, from the quick glance I got, is we've got quite a lot of parallel holes, which is something that I tend to avoid, but I really appreciate people who can do it well. You've got a few that will buck the trend. So like over here, we've got this one going in a completely different direction. But it's going to be a lot of subtle changes of direction. Not many bunkers means it is probably a really good fit for CC. So it's mostly land movement. We've got some rocks in play as well, which is interesting because it's hard to do those with playability because you can obviously bounce off them potentially and get all sorts of ricochet. Now, our 4 greens close by, where were those? These ones? 1, 6. And there's 4 very close together there. And there. Oh, it might be these ones. That would make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. But yeah, nice kind of gently undulating rolling hills on the terrain. Like there's nothing wild about the landscape. It just so we're kind of expecting golf that just fits in harmony with this. Farms and the environment again, just like it makes sense. Like this fits with. I think the course knows exactly what it's trying to be. You've got a little village, and the village again looks. Oh, look, he's used some of the new houses and the church, obviously. And he's not crutching on this too much. Like it's there, and it's going to flesh out some of the holes, but you don't need crazy amounts of it. Ooh, and little clumps of flowers, which again, like he's not plastered these everywhere. There's just little areas where those are going to be. And yeah, I mean, if you've watched other playthroughs, you'll know that like when people planted single trees and just dotted those around, like this is how you would do it. Like there are little clumps of those sorts of spruces, but you don't just have one in every single area. And a clubhouse, which is as expected, understated. It's got little bits of foliage coming through. Nice car park, even with a caravan trailer thing. Yeah, just oozes class like you'd expect, really. This is what he does. Cool. Where's first tee? I feel like it was really close to where I am. Oh yeah, we go down here. And straight off the first tee, he introduces us to some of those elements. So if you are going to go rocks in the fairway or rocks in play, you want to bring that in pretty early on and show it. Now we can avoid them. We can hit driver just down here. I think first time I played, I had this little pin just here, which really baits you into hitting driver down there, and then you've got this awkward little wedge over. So what would leave us a full lob wedge in would probably be somewhere down here, gently complicated by the land movement. So if I'm hitting too far over this side, I might run out of fairway. So like there's strategy if you want to look for it. You could try hitting up here. I did on my first playthrough, trying to get to that and bounced off the rock. But you can always take a safe option. You can, if you want to hit driver down the middle, you can do that. It's not really prescribing one way to hit the hole or play the hole, which I like. Lovely little bits of framing planting, again, getting those in early so when they come up later, they don't feel like they're coming too much out of nowhere. And we're on the post EA swing. Might take a couple of holes. Now, the green itself is beautifully contoured for CC. There's interesting slopes. It is a slightly crowned pin, and I don't typically love these, but it's such a short hole. It's not too extreme either side. You can land it short and you're not going to be running crazy away. I think you can just about get away with it. And you can also, again, if you were to bail out to the middle of the green, you're always going to have a putt at any of these pins. That I think is pretty important as well. We are going to have to try to bounce it up, and I've put myself in the worst possible position. Now, I've commented on other playthroughs about taking away the ground option. Here, there is a ground option. You can see me bouncing up. There is a little bit of false front on that side, but it's nothing too severe, so we could work the ball onto the green. But also, if I'd played down the left-hand side, a slightly more aggressive angle, that opens this all up, whereas this is like anything's feeding down to here. So just a really subtle strategic opener. Just very, very good first hole. And we're just making a mess of it because, yeah, not playing that well. Hey, an adventurous par. I think with anything like the crowned pin thing, typically 99% of the time I see that done, I see it done really badly because it's been done for the wrong reasons. There, I think it works because that is kind of the defense for that pin. Okay, again, like bunkerless tee shot, as the previous one was. The previous hole was bunkerless, this one's bunkerless as well. So how are we defending it? Well, the straight line, you're thinking about this little roll here and how that's going to complicate the drive. So if I go slightly too far to the left, I'm potentially ending up in the heavy rough. I'm going too far to the right, I'm potentially ending up down here. But if I'm shorter and more cautious, I'm easily ending up in the fairway, and it's not too long a hole, so I don't really need to take a full driver. So it's really nicely, but there's the potential reward of if I get dead middle, it's rolling me down to here. Just super subtle, really effective. The sort of thing that, again, we're looking good to great, like that's absolutely maximizing use of natural features and really adding interest without having to crowd a landing area. Like that's providing so much forgiveness in how we approach this. The green, love the green site. It's just on this little saddle. I might like a little bit more fairway down here, but I guess if you're going for it, that's gonna provide a bit more challenge. I guess that's a bit more of a reason not to go for it rather than just smash it up and whatever happens, you're ending up with a chip up. I need to also get a bit more comfortable about using heavy rough as defense. And again, the green sitting on that saddle means that you're like for a par 5, you're going to want to be pretty precise with this, like in order to get really close. But the green doesn't have too much movement to it. There's enough to keep it interesting, but there's kind of an absence of red and orange slopes, which are going to be the ones that cause people more issues. I think I want to land it about here. Oh, yeah, forgot the tempos. Very different. Sees hazard, hits into hazard. Okay, so now we've got that kind of chip out of heavy rough, which I've put myself in a tricky position, but totally not, like, still doable. Anywhere I land it short, going to leave an uphill putt. If I go long, then I'm potentially getting into back and forth territory, which we don't want. 75%. I don't believe it's going to be 75%. It never is. That's a fun little recovery shot. Enjoyed that. Haven't really. So this is our first little look at the creek, and looks really good. I guess the lack of like full background planting is kind of a meter issue, because these autumn trees are really quite costly. Would have been nice to see it a little bit more fleshed out, but I'm going to assume that's limitations to do with object meter. Okay, I'm really going to have to work hard to find things to critique. Love the view off the right. Okay, we've put a bunker down. I'm querying whether we need it, although I think what that's protecting is like your full wedge into this screen. Okay, so if we go too far right, we're potentially blocked, and go too safe on the layup, we're blocked out by trees. And play further left, we're taking on the bunker. A driver, and you're potentially chipping over those little mounds. Again, green sits really lightly on the land, and like by that I mean it's not propped up artificially. It kind of makes sense where it is. Where there is a runoff, makes sense. This little mound coming out is great. It's just almost like that green texture has just been laid down, and that's what the land was originally, which is always awesome. I think we're going to go kind of down the middle and play what I would say is really safe. And that, okay, we might not be the closest we could be, but I think that leaves a pretty sensible approach shot. I guess one tendency I'm noticing a little bit on this is that kind of breaking away in both sides. If we've got a pin here, then that's something we kind of did on the second, kind of did with pin one on this pin on the first. Not a major thing, but just tendency to watch. I really like the little grass covered mounds short, just to give you something to think about without really being too punitive. I did not realise. Oh, there's a shot. That pitch shot, I didn't really realise. And again, we've got a little putt that's not going to be like, I don't think many people are three putting this, but for that one putt, it's got enough to add interest. I might have hit it a little too hard. Okay. Grass planting looks great. Use of natural terrain where that's coming through is really good. Struggling to nitpick. Okay, the fourth. And we've got, I love the little bunker in front. So this is another really clever, subtle touch in that that bunker appears to be really close to the front of the green. If you're playing this without Scout Cam, you would think that's tucked right up against the front of the green, but actually way short, and it's hiding all of this fairway apron. This is something that a load of architects will do in real life. It just works really nicely. Green itself open at the front, so you can bounce a ball on, which we'll probably try to do. Because if I go at it, I might end up being long, which I don't really want. Plus, I think rolling it up is always more fun. Again, really cool little mounding that feeds all the way into the green with this little spine here and this one here. You can see the contours from a long way away, and it makes those green slopes make sense. A lot of the times we talk about greens fighting the land. This one is in perfect harmony with it, and it's kind of what you want to see. Now this back pin, I'm assuming there's one here, is definitely the toughest on the green. And for that pin, I feel this runoff may be coming in a little bit too harshly, given that we're gently sloping away on this side. But I guess that's the course's defense, is the greens, really. Okay. We bump an 8-iron in? Probably not, but we'll give it a go. I'm hoping it just hits that little Oh, it's going to go the other side of it. Shame. Would have been a fun shot. And that's quite a spicy pin position for CC, but it is a short-ish par 3, and there's loads of there's different options of how you play it. So again, when we talk about ground game, it's just allowing that option if someone is looking for it. It's not necessarily saying you must hit it this way. Because I could have gone. There's 3 ways I could see to play this pin, maybe more. One is bouncing it in off here. One is going dead at it and trying to stop it just over here. One is playing long using the backstop. You could be playing the fat of the green and taking the downhill putt. There's loads of strategy even within that one shot just because of the way the green all works, but none of those slopes are going to prevent it playing well on other pin sets. Okay, now hitting over the rockier areas, so we're getting to the kind of going up into the hills. It's a little it's not really semi-blind, but it's kind of like a partially hidden fairway. Again, framing's really good. I'll sit. Didn't really feel that was going. I should have seen from the land. I thought it was more of a flat fairway. And we have a relatively simple 2-tiered green, but again, that's all it's trying to be, and it's not trying to overcomplicate. And it gives me options. Do I want to go straight at it, or do I want to take my chances with using the backstop? I think backstop gives me a little bit more forgiveness. And there's all sorts of fairway around it, so even if I do run off, it's pretty safe. Love the little planting down the right-hand side. I think those flowers are typically super neon, but actually you pulled them off really well. Oh, that might need to go. Oh. Yeah, I think the only thing I've got is really the mountains in the backdrop do look very bare, and I'm sure you were aware of that. Oh. And those kind of occasional crowned pins or crowned sections of greens, but I think that's more kind of like a feature of the rolling terrain than anything to critique. Okay, 6, heading back in the opposite direction. We've got a blind tee shot coming up. A lovely green site just sitting in like naturally in between those 2 hills. We have a bunker protecting this side, which makes sense given the back left pins. For this pin, I don't think it really matters. A really friendly pin, which I think works well balanced with the ones we've had so far, which have occasionally been a little trickier. Love the sculpting just short of the green. Like there's just little bits of details, little rolls. It is kind of smooth, but then these little wrinkles add so much. It's not much, but I mean the course's watchword is subtlety, really, isn't it? Okay, so want to stay below the hole ideally. This is kind of like where I'd want to be finishing up. If I get a bit too greedy, I'm going long and I'm facing a chip back over and past the hole, so that's the place not to miss it. But there's all sorts of forgiveness built in and places I can miss. I'm kind of between clubs, so full pitching wedge, 98% is about right. There we go. Very happy with that approach shot. Just thinking what other things I might suggest. I don't really have a ton that would make it better. I mean, I might have put a few more coloured grasses or things in here, but I don't think it needs it. Okay, so slight split fairway working around that kind of rocky mound, which again, it's done in like this sort of fairway can be really easy to do wrong and like have it look really stark. I think this is really carefully considered, and it makes sense where the fairway is. Go this way, you're going to play blind on your approach shot, but you'll get a better angle looking down the green to some pin positions. Talk about the green in a sec. Or we can play down this way and you get a clear look, but maybe you don't always get the angle. Now, what I love about this is the way that that mound makes this fairway make sense. And also, contouring means that I can get, like it's going to gently run me down this way if I need, versus pushing me away. So you're trying not to let people get stuck behind that or hit that. It's there, but it's really functional and like carefully done. Now, as for the green, I love that for this one, the pin is going to kind of dictate where I want to go. So I don't really want to go left for this because of this pin, this little bit. So I'd rather be going from this angle. Whereas for a pin down here, I'd argue I probably want to be going more this way to avoid that little spine coming in. Back center, don't think it totally matters, but you can consider whether you want to be running down that slope or using it slightly more as a backstop. Those angles are done really, really cleverly. And you can see where the pin is off the tee, so that makes sense. Which means I kind of want to be... Actually, I think we can go 3-wood just to this side. And we go 3-wood to the other side by accident. Well, but yeah, you can see the contouring taking me away from the rock, which works nicely. So I've got a slightly more challenging approach shot, but nothing too drastic that's going to... I can still very much make a birdie, or I mean, certainly par should be easy, which is, again, what we want for CC. Wind's probably taking that to... That's kind of where I wanted to leave it. So we've now got the uphill up. The tiny little shelf this pin is on. I might have been tempted to move the cup back just a little, just away from the little mound, but quibbling. Really enjoyed that hole. Right, the opening stretch has been super strong. Okay, 8. Banked into the hillside, long par 3, and yeah, we love this. Just all about the ground contouring and where I'm going to land it in order to end up close to the pin. This is probably the toughest pin on the green, because that slope's always going to take you further away from it. I think the first time I played, I had one around about here, which was all sorts of fun. I tried to bounce a ball in and use that slope to work it close. You can do that. If you're going straight at it, you can, but this complicates just a little because you've got to carry it all the way. If you're landing it there, you're ricocheting way further. But for the people who are not looking for that strategy, you can hit a 3-iron to the centre of the green and you're going to have an uphill putt. I think Jizer would be disappointed if I didn't at least try it. Presents really nicely. I think this hillside maybe looks a little barren. That will partly be, I assume, to do with shadows going onto the green. I wonder whether you could have put rocks there. Might have broken it up just a little. Just because the grass doesn't render so well from distance. Oh, that's not the swing we wanted. EA. Still on the plus side, we're below the hole. So there is that. Something like that will do. Obviously, a flop shot is a realistic option. And we're just playing this all sorts of badly because I had limited control out of the heavy rough and thought I'd be ending up about here. Actually gone way past. Go on. That's going to be a... Yeah. I definitely complicated that. Could have played it much more simply. But it's way more fun than play it that way. Yeah, another really solid par 3. Okay, so first par 5? Second par 5. We had hole 2, didn't we? And again, bunkerless. I really admire the ability to go bunkerless on a path. I can't do it. And I found that rocky mound caused me all sorts of. It looks like it's so out of play until you miss the fairway. And then it caused me all sorts of problems trying to lay up in a decent area first time. Okay, so if I go, I can try and cut the corner. Again, there's the possibility of running through the fairway on this side, or I can lay back. And with this one being at 537, again, we probably could get home with 2-3 woods. However, this one's less amenable to the ground game and is kind of upfront about that. You could run it in, like a long shot will still run up that slope, and it's not a heavy false front that's going to take the ball back off. So, like, again, subtle things like this slope, if the ball is running up there, that's not going to immediately drop it back off. Like a big red false front that's like 3 or 4 squares long on this approach would be completely unhelpful. Whereas this one's just going to kind of slow the ball as it goes up onto the green, so we appreciate that. I wonder whether, I think we're just going to hit half partial driver just down this side. Say half, it's coming out on 98%. And that little mound on the far side is not a bad place to land, but it does provide a slightly uneven stance, which again is a good defense because it just means our precision's a little off. I think I'm okay with 5-iron. Stance and wind. I think stance is taking it a bit further right, and wind's probably bringing it back. And like you can see how this is all we need really for this shot. Like if I go too far right, well, I'm in real trouble. Too far left, I'm in real trouble. Short is a completely safe miss. So it's kind of where's he allowing you to miss? And that fairway around the green, some of it's helping, some of it's really hurting. But given the short par 5 nature of this, I think we're all good. Well, it's come out way further right than I thought. That's my swing line. But again, I think short is, yeah. If I'd gone further, that's really tumbling down, but short is safe. It's giving you a miss every time. It's usually short. Not my best chip. And a really cool high point on the course just to come back to with the clubhouse. You can see so much from here. Definitely on the empty side over there, but again, that's going to be like that's a hit you know you're taking, I think. Huh. We'll blame EA again. Loving this course so far. Okay, 10, another really clever use of camber, and it hasn't felt repetitive. So a little bit of a reverse camber of like, I want to play to the inside, but everything's taking me towards the right. All disconnected green. So this one is all about aerial approach, but at 395, we're hitting a wedge into it no matter what, so that's okay. Kind of don't mind being short right, but I'm comfortable hitting driver. Somewhere down here, and I've got that choice as to where I leave myself. If I want to have a look, there are flatter lies down to the far right of the fairway, so if I go right the way down, I've got a flatter lie, but I'm trading the blindness for it. Or if I bomb it all the way down close to the green, I've got a flatter lie, but I'm dealing with a shorter shot. There's options as to what you go for. And like leaving the player to decide what they want. This stance plus this win means we're aiming here. Master's going to bring us back a little. Otherwise, I felt that was quite good. I'm just the wrong side of that little spine. And again, short was your miss. Like if I'm landing anywhere further close to the front of the green, I've got a really easy putt, but getting a little bit more greedy and not quite using that backstop. Yeah, we were always kind of lag putting. Ooh, Another cool green site, and I like the tree just framing on the right hand side with the rocks. Kind of surprised we haven't had more like a bowl green site. I feel like this land you could have put some of those in. They've mostly been on the like raised plateaus, which are definitely good areas for green sites. I feel like that's maybe one we could have explored. Unless I'm missing. I think I am. Okay, so now hitting. If we'd held up to the right hand side, we get more of a view of the green. Ah, this one's sort of in a bowl. Still raised. Yeah, if I'd hit more up to the right, I'd get a better view of the green. As is coming at from this angle. If I'd gone further left, I've actually got a little bit more of a way around this mound. If you want to push the ball to the extremities of the fairways, just this little bit further, you are rewarded, but you don't have to. And for me, that's the essence of a really good CC course. That is on the line I want it. And then it's going to feed in just a touch off there. Maybe a little heavy. Definitely a little heavy. I did not realise the green all runs away. I'd have probably played that differently. That's a pin you're probably not getting very close to in two. Not a good chip at all. Really good test of your short game, this course. Mine is poor. And we get a cool little view of the village just behind. So like this, I think, is the closest we get to it. Little playground. Just integrates really nicely with the village. Like this is, yes, as close as in real life a course would get to the village. We don't need to chuck houses right next to a green. Just annoyingly classy and just really good. Okay. Playground in view of the tee. Oh, drivable. And this one's in a bowl. Right, okay. As if he was listening. I have a reason not to go for it. I did first. So first time I put myself in the worst possible position. The pin was here and I ended up flailing right down here and had absolutely no shot. You can get yourself into trouble here, but this is very much a you must make birdie kind of hole. I love the way the fairway creeps from just behind the rocks. I'm not sure we need all of the fairway down here. I don't know how people are using that. I guess you could, and you could play your approach into the backstop. Oh no, we flailed again. No. Oh, at least hit the fairway, please. Tried to take a little bit off the drive and just does not work well. New houses look really good. Okay. And I'm punished because I'm not going to be able to control spin out of this, and it's all running away from me. Just made a mess of this already. And then we get a very fast pitch to top things off. Used up quite a lot of bunkers on this hole. A hole two. And you definitely wouldn't want to be in that, well, that one's using for like kind of an aiming point, but we'll see. Yeah, that would be a nightmare to be in. Green does have enough helping contours to make you want to go for it. Oh, it's breaking quite a bit. I don't really know. 2 feet down. That's the EA control. We'll just hit it and watch it roll. Oh, it was dead straight. If in doubt, the least deserved birdie ever. Nice little view of those plants again. Still don't love the neon ones, but that's not a new thing. Oh, Back to another bunkerless hole. I think this one perhaps could have used a little something else. Just the difficulty of bunkerless holes and like doing lots of them is I kind of feel like we've seen this idea before. It's very hard to keep the variety. Don't get me wrong, it's really good. Wood beer, and there's nothing to critique other than that it just feels a bit similar. And I like the restraint of not going right next to the creek, like with the river, with how this one is, would make sense not to. I do wonder whether you could have popped the green a little bit further down the hillside just for variety, because we played a lot of times down and then back up to a green. Whether we could have done that. Oh, come straight over that. Oh, well. Creek, or the river itself looks gorgeous, really pretty. Okay, 14. Stunning. Looks so good, and I love the way it really fills the frame, like because all of this course has been kind of connected, and you've seen everything else. This is it would have been very easy to make these surfaces quite small, but the fact that it's so wide, yeah, I could sit and stare at this for a long time. Also, amazing work for making the willows look good. And part of the reason why it's so wide is because the green is wide, which is a nice change of pace. The little rough mounds look great. And they're not really ever going to come into play. They're more visual than anything else, but they really break it up nicely. This one's more, and because the green's on a slight diagonal, it's just like this is just a question of club selection, really, which is good because we haven't done that yet. And we've got a slow. Oh, come on. So lucky. Friendly little kicker slope that I got just the right side of. From one undeserved birdie to another. Oh no, we have 13 in the middle. Okay, 15. R5 again. Are we using bunkers on this one? We are not. Oh no, we are. We've got one bunker near the green. So another split fairway hole with these giant rocks very close to being in play. Well, they are in play. So by this point, we've seen the rocks enough to know that they're a hazard, and this could just ricochet absolutely anywhere. Yes, likely off the fairway, but you could go forward. Get a little bit of a ramp on the right-hand side, but also if you hit that, I think you get a bit of a speed slot down here, and you're going to go much further. You're also getting a better angle into most pins on the green, up from that back right one where you want to be left. So again, works well. That looks good. Yeah, so you can see it's just rolling out that little bit more. And with a different wind, I might have, or slightly more helping wind might have gone even further. Okay, where do I not want to be? Do not want to be left. That's the miss you cannot make. And it's nice to come back to that green site that we'd seen on about 6 earlier. High plateau one. I don't want to be in the bunker, so I just want to be straight, and being short would be absolutely fine. Interesting that you've separated fairways here. I mean, the land movement makes it make sense. It just potentially means if someone's hitting, I guess then becomes a hero shot if you miss the fairway. It's like, can you carry to here and you get an infinitely easier shot? That works. Okay. Frames really nicely as ever. Just love the two hillsides and that little valley. It all feels really natural, like everything just belongs. Oh, we've gone left. No. Thought the wind would bring it back a little if I pushed it that way. Well, this is not it. And that's incredibly fortuitous. Green itself is a funky. No, it's not that funky a shape. It's just working around that one bunker, which I guess is why the bunker's there. I like that you've got a little bowl in the back that you could kind of roll over this little spine. I mean, as a par 4 green, this totally wouldn't work, but as a par 5 where you're hitting kind of a running approach, you're, I guess, asking people if they really want to go for it, they could be trying to fade a shot, and there's enough help there that you could pull off the hero shot and get an eagle. But equally, if you want to lay there, you've got a very easy birdie. I mean, risk reward is everywhere on this course. It doesn't. You don't have to have water or OB in play for risk reward to be a thing. Another beautiful par 3. I love the simple green shape, and yeah, just sits so naturally. Done well to make the lighting work on this hole as well, because it doesn't look too blinding. I guess part of that is keeping those autumn trees in the background a bit more. And we've got this little slope can feed us close to, and don't want to be short on this one. Being long wouldn't be the worst miss in the world, I don't think. We'll take a little off an 8 iron. And not hit a massive grey fast. Tempo has been awful. And yet, still scoring pretty well considering. With everything running away, it's quite nice because I can just hit a chip and know that it will funnel down. Which is a fun little shot to play. Okay. I mean, the set of par 3s here, I think, possibly best in contest, certainly pretty close. Ooh, teeny tiny green. And runs from front to back and is slightly hidden. Really like this. And this is the blind tee shot. There's lots. We chucked all of the quirkiness in on one hole, haven't we? I think for this one, I probably want to be further down. This is one that I'm going to play wrong and immediately realise what I should have done. Okay, clinging to the left. Oh, I like that I get the little view of the flag in between the rocks. That's so cool. Little subtle things. No, I feel like this is kind of how I would play it. Little hints of that hole at North Barrett. Like, obviously completely different in terms of how it's accomplished it. But the idea of hitting close down the left-hand side so you're avoiding those rocks. I really like this. Like, this as a change of pace hole, I think is great. Small green, just a fun hole. This is the kind of thing I kind of wish you tried a bit more on 13. Something just a bit funkier. Awesome hole. That's one of my favourites on the course. And then 18, slightly longer par 4. Great green site. I think, yeah, kind of just hit. You're kind of giving up the tee shot a little bit, which for a closing hole, you want people to finish with a flourish. Makes sense. We hit down, and then we hit back up. Kind of an understated closing hole. I don't know. I think could have done maybe something a bit more bold, but then would it necessarily fit with the rest of the course? Maybe not. There's the tempo again. But the angles are still there. You want to be playing down the left-hand side in order to open up that green, and the fairway kind of runs that way. So the little spine moves you towards this direction, which gives you the angle in. but that also potentially brings in the risk of hitting heavy rough. Finish with some luck. Yeah, it's just really classy. So much time. So much time for this course. Okay, we finished 7 under. So, not the. I'd say you hit the CC difficulty perfectly. And the thing you've nailed is playability, which is exactly what we're looking for. So, it is the greens are subtle, there's enough interest there to make you think, but you don't have to go looking for it. And I guess the best way I'd put it is you're not screwed if you're out of position on the greens or on your approach shots. You've always got a shot to get somewhere close. And it does tempt you into taking on risk. And if you miss in the wrong places, say, for example, me missing left on 15, you've still got that shot. It's just higher tariff. And there's still going to be helping contours on the green to get you there. I mean, the elements you chose worked really nicely. And I think you deal with the land movement so well for that kind of subtlety, and use that to really good effect. Do the usual game of how many holes can I remember. First hole I remember for the rocks in the middle of the fairway and that kind of 11-ish sort of green. Second had that par 5 green site that was just tucked on the ridge. Third hole, I don't actually remember the third. Fourth was that par 3, where it was the long par 3. I recall that one. What was the distance on 4? Sure, I don't really totally recall 4. Then we played out towards the creek for a little bit. The par 5 coming home, I definitely remember the. Oh no, the 8th was the long par 3. Wasn't it? 3 was. Yeah. Oh no, 4 was the one where I tried to bounce in an 8 iron. And you kind of remember it for the shots that you tried to hit, I think, a lot of it. Then the back 9, we had the drive ball par 4 was 12. The one in the bowl was 11, whereas that was the 5 wood I ran through the back on. 13 was the one going down by the creek. 14 is the gorgeous par 3. 15 is the one with the split fairway. 16 is that par 3 up to the saddle. 17 is that quirky one. And 18 is that one coming back to the clubhouse. And you can see immediately that back 9 I remember all of. And that's how well it sticks with you because you've put thought into the shots. That's what brings it home for me. As for distances, I think you're possibly missing a long par 4. And you've built up enough that you could use that as your 18th, and that would have felt different. Because there were a lot of times where I was hitting driver wedge, but I appreciate I've got the longest driver, so for others that long par 4 might be 13, but 13 didn't really feel like it was a long ball. I'd have loved to have seen one where it was like a green flat with mounds that are just going to divert the ball towards the hole. Not a total punch bowl, but something like that. I think that could have worked really nicely. Probably not for 18, given the land that was sitting on, that was always raised. But somewhere on that back 9 would have been good. And the longest one we had on the front was 5 at 475. And unfortunately, in this game, that still doesn't really equate to necessarily a long approach. But we did have a lot of those on the par 5s where we were thinking about it. So we are testing that shot value, just not necessarily assigned to par, which is fine. Other closing thoughts, the par 3s are awesome. They're really stellar. The par 5s I thought were really good as well. Maybe just one too many of those bunkerless short par 4s or mid-length par 4s with 13, which just to kind of that raised plateau sort of green. That's the only major critique I would have, and kind of like and even that's not, sorry, that's the only critique I've got, and that's not a major critique at all. But the greens were awesome, really well contoured. Maybe lacking a touch in this massive background planting, and could have varied the grasses, put a few more colours in. But that's all I've got. And I appreciate those are probably meter related. So best of luck. I expect this one to be right up there at the top of the contest when it closes. Hope it goes well, and thank you for watching.